Hello, thank you for joining. Happy Monday. I'm super excited to do this call. Autumn is hosting it today. You should have received our Coach's Corner email yesterday, and she talked about 5 signs that you are overtraining. And we are going to go just more into depth on that today and what that looks like, strategies for that. And I'm excited to have Autumn lead the call. I'm going to have you so that you can share your screen if you need to, Autumn.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to do that.
Do that. Okay, you should be able to just click on share screen
Screen.
whenever you are ready now.
How's that? Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, you guys, so we're going to dive into something kind of different, something kind of fun. Overtraining, which is kind of an interesting topic. And when I started doing my research for this, it kind of just started diving in like many directions. So I really tried to kind of narrow it down and to just kind of touch base on just the main points of it. But exercising is such a powerful tool, both physically and mentally. We need it. We do it every day. We do it in many forms. But overtraining is actually something that most of us will encounter. And a lot of times we don't really even realize that we are overtraining. So I wanted to give some tools and a little bit of information of like, am I overtraining? Like there's some things to look out for that. But I've overtrained personally. I'm sure most of my team has stepped back and realized they've entered a spot of overtraining. And it's hard when you get to a certain point when we're in mom life, we're in mom mode, and we have this part of us that we enjoy to do, right? We love to get to the gym, we love to lift weights, we love running. It's kind of like our me time. So it just is a constant daily thing that we try to push for. And when we do have to step back from that, it's really, really hard mentally to do that. So I will just wanted to give you guys some things that you can try to do instead of getting into the gym as well, to help if you feel like you're kind of pushed that point of overtraining. Um, Signs of overtraining, and these can be different, you guys. Like they can pop up differently, depending on your sport, depending on how you're training, depending on your lifestyle. But I just wanted to kind of touch base with some of the main points so you can take a step back and really kind of analyze to see if this is something that was going on. But persistent fatigue. So always tired, regardless of rest. That's something that you can, that, you kind of have to look at your lifestyle as well. You kind of have to take a look at, here's my bucket full of stressors, because overtraining is a stressor on the body, right? So if you have a bucket of stressors that you have work and you've got kids in, you've got family life in, family issues in, those are all stressors that are in your bucket. So sometimes training can overfill and it can overflow that bucket. So you kind of have to take a step back where you are in your life, the season that you're in. I have many, many clients who I've had the conversation with. I used to be able to do this. I'm not overtraining. I used to be able to have an hour in the gym and then go running, for 30 minutes at night. But that was before I had kids, right? So then you have all these other stressors in your life that are causing so much fatigue and so much just pressure in general that will kick that fatigue and that tired feeling throughout the day. It'll just overflow. So taking a step back and over analyzing, is this the season to train how I am? That'll really help kind of analyze that. It goes along with decreased performance. So if you find yourself in the gym and you're like, gosh, I just feel like crap. I can't get my squat back to where I need it. I can't get my push press back to where I need it. You could even go into, I can't get my mile time back to where I need it. A lot of times, you're holding the reins too tight and taking a step back and saying, yeah, I am overtraining. Will kind of help balance that out. Irritability. Irritability is one of the biggest signs that you can have of overtraining. If you're just you're snapping at your kids, you're snapping at your husband. If you're just like, I cannot figure out why I'm so moody. Most of my females, that's the number one sign of overtraining. So that's something to take a look at. And then sleep issues. If you kind of feel like at night you're laying and you have like restless leg syndrome, or you're just super, super tired, you can't go to sleep, or you're going to sleep and you're waking up, that's one of the major signs of overtraining. And then just unexplained muscle soreness, like you can't recover. I feel like crap. I can't recover. It all just kind of snowballs into uh, one. So these are kind of one of the main things to look at. And it's hard to do that because, like I said, we get used to feeling tired sometimes. We get used to being stressed out. So we don't really go the direction in our mind of, really, am I overtraining? Is this something that I need to look at? So it's kind of like finding the signs and taking a step back and putting most of that, into play. Like maybe I should take some time and take a week off. So there's a lot that you can do and many directions that you can go to help, but we have to find a spot where we embrace rest. And it's hard too. Like I said, we use this is a tool that we have to help with one of the biggest antidepressants is training. So it's hard to take a flip and say, I'm going to use this as a tool as well. And it takes doing it. I think it takes embracing rest and taking time off for you to be like, oh, wow, this isn't that bad. I can really rest and I'm not going to lose anything. So really, really knowing that this is something to put into play and that you have to use, is resting
Autumn.
yeah.
Sometimes I feel like it's not necessarily like the act. I mean, sometimes I would say a part of that fulfillment is the activity, right? It is running. Like you feel that high from running. It is lifting heavy that you get that endorphin rush. You feel empowered. But like too much is too much, right? And so sometimes it's like, okay, I want to move my body every day and have that. I know that that feels good for me. So how can I incorporate rest and not be overtrained, but still feel that fulfillment that I get and like that me time and that release every day? And I think sometimes it might be hard. And if anyone gets it, it's us, trust me. It might be hard to go from 5 days of lifting to 4 or to 3, depending on what you need to do. But you can still take that time. Like if you're not lifting 5 days a week, maybe you're lifting 4 days a week, you can still take that hour and do something that's going to be restorative, but also give you like that serotonin boost, that little bit of dopamine. And I think it could be even like going outside for a walk. Like that is not going to be taxing on your body, but you are going to get a lot of the same benefits that you would get from a hard workout without the stress. And in fact, it's like it's stress relieving, right? So maybe swapping a couple of those days that you know you need to cut back on that extra run or that extra lifting session or that like high intensity workout and do it something that's more restorative but that you enjoy. Like if you hate yoga, don't go to a yoga class. If you hate, whatever, reading, you don't have to read. Like go on a walk, get outside, and do something maybe that's a little bit different, but that isn't going to add stress for you. But you're keeping the schedule and you're moving your body every day.
Yeah. I have a lot of clients too who will say, or just, whoever in general, I have to go to the gym. That is my out.
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of like, yeah, go to the gym. Go to the gym, but get in the sauna. Go to the gym
Yeah.
and get in the hot tub. Go to the gym and stretch. Use that time.
Mobility, like,
Yes, but utilize it in another way. And that still gives you your you time, but then yeah, it's given your body that rest that it so badly needs. Um, that's the thing is most of the community, the biggest community that overtrains is females, just the general female, not professional athletes. Like we're just the top of the pyramid for overtraining because we do utilize it so much. in our day to day. So finding something else to replace it is going to be the best thing
Well, and I think like the reason why female athletes don't overtrain is because you have a specific goal and your training program supports that goal, and rest is needed to achieve, like to peak when you need to. And usually you have a coach, or you've had years of coaching and you know the appropriate amount of volume to achieve that goal. Where I think a lot of us that just work out for enjoyment purposes, like we love it and it's enjoyable. And so more is better, right? Like if more is better in the beginning, then I think, and that's the case when you're new to fitness, when you add more volume, you see a direct benefit, whether that's physically, performance, or all of the above, right? So I think a lot of women just think, well, then more. Like I just need to continue to add more, and that will continue to give me more benefit. And they don't realize when they're experiencing all the negative side effects of overtraining. It's like easy to blame it on something else because at that point you're used to it and it's hard to give it up. So I think sometimes having a coach might be a good, even if you're not going for a goal, having a coach might be a helpful tool to know objectively, like if your volume and intensity matches what's needed to feel your best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that can roll into the next point here, your quality over quantity.
Yeah.
So I'll never forget hearing for the first time, train smarter, not harder, years ago, years ago. And it really does hold true, especially the older that you get.
Yes.
That you get, your quantity is not as important as your quality. So a lot of times you can recognize I'm overtraining, but the next step is, well, what do I do? Right? Like, what do I do next? Like, how do I tone down my training? And a lot of it is just looking at your volume, slowing down, especially when we have that 3, 2, 1 go mentality, taking that out and really slowing down your lifts, finding that mind body connection and dropping your volume almost in half. And that is something that we'll go over in just a second. Really helps get back into training and focus more on your quality of training versus, like you said, I have to do more. What can I do? I've got to go out and run. Is really, really important to do as well. And then, of course, listen to your body. You go back to referencing a professional athlete, they'll know right when they start overtraining. It's hard for us because we're not entering into that, like, gosh, why do I feel like crap? Like, why can't I sleep? Why do I hate my kids? Like all of those things, you just get into that mode where you don't know why. And so we don't listen to our body a lot of times because we are on autopilot. We put our energy in our kids, we put our energy in our life, and taking a step back and saying to ourselves, my body sucks right now. Like I really just need to take a second to go in a direction of recovery. And that, setting realistic goals. Where are you in your life right now? Are you at a place where you can train for a marathon without overtraining because you have work full time, your kids are in school full time? You don't want to you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to spread yourself too thin. So setting a realistic goal is easier to say and harder to do, but really thinking, you know what, next year I can do that. I'm not going to do that to myself right now. I'm going to put my energy into here and not not overdoing it. Seeking balance is hard to find, but it's definitely super important to keep your body, at a healthy level with training. Okay, so what to do if you feel like you're overtrained? Take a full break, take a full week off. A lot of times we'll say, what am I going to do for a full week? Find other things to
Go enjoy it.
fulfill your life. Yes. Find another hobby. That's so hard for me to do because I think, what? I don't want to do that. But
Do nothing. Take
yeah,
a nap.
you rest, you recover, I don't know, sit on your patio. It's so funny to me that I'm doing this discussion because so hard for me to do, but it's so, so important, especially the older I get. But take a full break. And I'll say that to clients and they'll come back and say, okay, so I'll just go and maybe I'll only lift arms for the week. It's like, no, just take a full week to yourself. But take a week off. And I promise you, the time frame of that week in 3 months, 6 months from now, that week's not going to make or break anything. It's just going to help. It's going to fortify everything that you're doing in your training. So take that week off. Reevaluate your routine. Goes back to, can I fit that in my life right now? Like, am I lifting appropriately to fit my life? Maybe I need to go down to 3 days, like Michaela was saying. Maybe I need to go down to 2 days and walk the rest of the time. It fills your bucket. Those stressors are huge. So reevaluate what you're doing at the time. And it's okay to let go of that feeling of, I have to do this every single day. It just makes, it takes putting your foot in the door for that change. Nutrition, obviously, a lot of times if we're in a deficit, just for example, we're eating lower calories, man, you can overtrain so quick. It's just
Yeah.
your body needs to have efficient fuel to help recover. If you're finding yourself, will always hit that plateau. If you find yourself, gosh, I'm at a plateau, the scale's not moving, I can't lose any inches, I feel like I can't, just running in circles with my training, odds are you're overtraining. That hormone imbalance has been kicked into play and it really just starts impeding fat loss big time. So it goes back to circling through that less is more. Doing less will probably progress that fat loss even more if you find yourself spinning your wheels with that overtraining. So making sure you're having an appropriate caloric intake to match your training. I mean, if you're heading into a season where you're, say, for example, doing a squat cycle and you're like, I'm going to push these weights. I want to make sure I want to put 15 to 20 pounds on my squat. Well, are you eating appropriately to fuel that? So matching those two worlds is going to be super important to help with recovery. So you don't kick into that mode of overtraining. So you don't get 3 weeks into your squat cycle and then just completely plateau and can't build from there. So utilizing calories and nutrition to help with all the gains is going to help with that as well. So, I mean, remembering that what season you're in with overtraining is going to be important, and making sure that you're not like you can always circle back to overfilling and doing too much outside of training. It's not just your training session that you have to look at. It's just life in general and finding a balance with that for sure. Trying to think of what else to go into. Um, if you
I think
take a
noting too that like if you are overtrained, it's much easier to like keep that balance then and continue to progress in everything you're doing, then once you hit overtrained, like you have to take 10 steps back. So just knowing that adding too much volume too soon is also something to keep in mind. Like if you are wanting to go after a physique goal or a performance goal, it should be very like you should, like Autumn said, training smart. Is so important because as you're adding volume and intensity, you need to do so with a lot of intention, or because once you overtrain, like you do need to take time off to recover all systems internally, and then also just physically, like you're at a way greater risk for injury. And so just making sure as you add volume, like if you want to grow your glutes and you feel like you're just maintaining right now, like add one glute exercise into your week, 3 sets, and like see how you progress on that. You don't need to add five. So keeping that in mind too, small tweaks in programming can have a really big impact. Like if you want to start adding in running, that's great. Probably don't start with an hour run. Like start with maybe just getting in 3 days a week of getting some miles under you and have it be 10 minutes to start and build from there.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think happens is we do a lot, like sometimes a lot of overtraining just comes out of a fear-based place, like a fear that, oh, I'm not doing enough, I'm going to gain weight, or something along those lines. And it's so important that if you are working with a coach to really trust them, because most of the time they have walked the walk in addition to talk the talk. I know you mentioned this, Autumn, but like I've definitely overtrained at several parts, and Michaela's right, it sets you way, way back. And I wish I had listened to some other people. um, and it's amazing what happens when you allow your body to rest and recover and get out of this mindset that more is better. I think a lot of us have grown up in that mindset, like eat less, be smaller, right? Do more, burn more calories. And it's so much more nuanced and individualized than that, especially if you have a coach saying like, hey, let's take a break. I mean, if you're already feeling terrible because you're overtraining, the worst that can happen is that you stay exactly where you are, right? So
Right.
try your best.
Your progress will not be,
No.
tarnished. And if anything, it will be enhanced.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when I feel myself having that mindset, when I feel myself leading into, I'm going to do this week. I'm going to add more. I'm going to go on this run. And it's so easy to do that because we're females and that's what we do,
You
right?
work
Yeah.
hard.
We work hard. We're always wanting to look at the bigger picture and make an improvement somewhere. And we're the hardest on ourselves with that. So overtraining just makes sense for us to do more. Not necessarily, I don't want to say, overtraining, but just doing more in general. I always have to take a step back and say, I have to focus on my long-term health. Like immediately adding that in sounds great, but what is it going to do to my hormones in 2 years? What is it going to do to my thyroid? I mean, what is it going to do to my joints? It's such a hard balance, and I really have to take a step back and think, okay, less is always smarter right now at this season that I'm in. So focusing on long-term health, really embrace recovery, really embrace rest. And I think it really does take putting it into play. I mean, it really does just take, I have to take
You
and
have to
try
be brave enough to try it.
this. And once you do it, oh, okay, this isn't that bad, and then it gets into routine. But it's definitely something that I think takes practice, listening to your body, understanding your body, and doing it because it does help. And you'll see those gains if you've hit that wall in your training session, in your lifts, in your body composition with anything. Takes that rest, let yourself recover, come back into your volume half. Like if say you've taken a break, come back into half the volume. The next week, maybe see how you feel. Up that volume, make sure you're sleeping, make sure you're hydrated, make sure you're having electrolytes. And then just slowly increase. So don't take that week off and then just come back in and, bat off out the gate and just get back into your volume, wing your way back into that. And I promise you, the scale, if that's the goal, the body composition, if that's the goal, the mile time, lifting weights, that will just burst through and things will really start to move forward with that. So it is a powerful tool, and it is kind of scary to really take a step back and think I need to kind of maybe take some time off. But I love these comments in here because I think
Yeah.
the subject
Oh yeah.
It's
that
real.
that
And I
not
think
we don't talk about a lot.
thinking of it as a bell curve, right? On like results. So in the beginning, if we're starting at the bottom, when we add more, we do see bigger results. And then we get to a point where it's like the most we can manage here at the top. And as we continue to add more, it's now diminishing returns. At first, like Autumn said, you might just not be progressing in your lifts, but then as you continue with that, you're hurting your ability to put on muscle. You're hurting your ability to like have optimal hormone function. All those things now, as you add volume, are going to start to down regulate or become dysregulated because your body needs to survive. And now the amount of training that you are doing is taking away from like just normal body system functioning. So just knowing, yeah, adding more volume, although it might feel good in the moment, it can have a very negative effect. So if you notice like, gosh, yeah, all those things, like, am I tired? Am I cranky? Is my mood kind of changing? Is my performance declining? Am I having like worse quality sleep? Is my appetite really changing? Am I not as hungry, or am I like really hungry? Am I getting chronic injuries? I'm trying to think of other. Do I have like some mental fog happening? Digestion. Am I feeling like really bloated, and is digestion off? Am I having a hard time digesting the foods that I normally digest? Is my cycle changing? Like, is my period now different than it was before? Shorter, longer, different symptoms? All of those things, like if you're checking off more than 3 of those things, then that's something to look at. And we do it's really important to us to not add in a lot of like junk volume. You won't see in the HF Physique programming ever, oh, I have balloons.
Yeah, so you give it the fingers.
Oh, yay. You won't see like me telling you to do like squat jumps in between your leg extensions, right? Like we're not trying to just like do more and burn more calories. When we're training, we're trying to effectively build muscle. When you're doing cardio, you're trying to build your cardiovascular endurance system. When you're doing sprints, you're trying to improve your glycolytic system. But there's a certain amount of volume we can all handle. And when you're in your 20s and your sex hormones are just high as can be, recovery is going to be improved. Also, mental load is lower for most. That you can train differently than in your 30s, when maybe you have like a more stressful job, sex hormones aren't as optimal. Not necessarily optimal, but I would say as high. You maybe have children, you have like family members that need you. Just because you did it before and it worked before, I hear that so much with our age of women, like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I did this diet 10 years ago and it worked for me. I just do that again. Or I did this exercise routine 10 years ago and it worked for me. I just need to do, like, why can't I just stick to that? Or why am I not seeing results when I did last time? We are always changing. And two, like, it's compounded effect, right? Like if we have been under eating for years and years, at some point it will catch up to us. So our 30s are usually when things start to show up, from like our genetics kind of carry us through our 20s, I think, and our 30s, like our lifestyle and our habits really start to show up. So just remembering that just because it worked for you before, that doesn't mean it was like optimal for you. And now is when you can really tell if it is 30s, 40s, 50s. Like we need to be a lot more intentional about recovery and habits and lifestyle. All the same things matter, but they just matter more as we age.
And your body will thank you as for whatever you're looking at or your results that you're pushing for. You'll get there quicker, and it just rest and recover.
Yes. And if you need accountability and like support with that, or you need like a sounding board or troubleshooting, just ask in the app. We're happy to help. And I think all of us coaches have all done different forms of exercise and competitive like athletic pursuits. And I think so knowing what that looks like and also relating to you on it, we are here to do that. And I think as, like a community, we have highly motivated women in our community. So I think remembering too that other women also understand. So
Yeah.
just open up on the app and we are happy to help and give feedback and just listen too, because we get it. So thank you so much for joining, everyone. And thanks, Autumn. Do you have anything else to add, Autumn?
I hit it. That was good.
Hey, thanks everyone. Have a great week. And for those of you doing summer shred, we'll see you on Thursday's call. Have a good